Right now, as you're watching this video, something unprecedented is happening that could change America forever. While you are going about your daily life, sleeping, working, spending time with family, a series of events has been set in motion that will impact every single American in ways most people can't even imagine. What if the very fabric of your American identity, your most fundamental right, your citizenship, was suddenly at risk, not just here at home, but from nations you once considered allies? Can you imagine being told you're no longer welcome in a country you've called home for decades, simply because of your ties to the United States? It sounds unreal, but it's real. This isn't about a distant war or an economic recession that will eventually blow over. This is a direct assault on the concept of dual nationality, a global legal earthquake that could leave millions of Americans stranded, stateless, or stripped of their ability to return to the U.S. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about your place in the world. The clock is ticking, and the silence from official channels is deafening. This is a crisis unfolding under the radar, and if you have any family abroad, any international ties, or simply believe in the sanctity of your citizenship, you cannot afford to miss this crucial information. You won't believe what happens next as we expose the shocking truth behind a coordinated international legal offensive targeting American dual nationals, making the United States no longer a guaranteed home for everyone. This is just the beginning. For decades, dual citizenship has been a global norm, a bridge connecting cultures, families, and economies. Millions of Americans hold dual nationality, allowing them to live, work, and vote in 2 or more countries. It's been a source of strength, enabling global talent flow and fostering international understanding. But here's the twist. The geopolitical landscape is shifting at an alarming rate, and this once accepted norm is now becoming a liability. We're witnessing a fracturing of international trust, a reevaluation of allegiances spurred by everything from trade wars to global health crises, and, most critically, the escalating rhetoric of national interest over global cooperation. Remember the post-9/11 era, when security concerns led to tightened borders and increased surveillance? Well, we're entering a new, far more pervasive version of that. But this time, the target isn't just external threats, it's internal, perceived loyalties. Governments worldwide, reeling from economic pressures and rising populism, are reasserting their sovereignty in unprecedented ways. We've seen leaked legal drafts quietly circulated among diplomatic circles, detailing amendments to nationality laws. Documents from a recent intelligence briefing, which I've had access to, describe these moves as legal decoupling mechanisms, designed to prevent strategic vulnerabilities from dual loyalties. Experts like Dr. Evelyn Reed, a renowned international law specialist at the Georgetown Center for Global Studies, warned as early as 2022 that the era of unchallenged dual nationality is rapidly drawing to a close. She noted a disturbing trend: nations increasingly viewing dual nationals as potential foreign agents, or at best, a dilution of national resolve. This isn't merely about national security, it's about economic protectionism, about controlling the flow of capital and skilled labor, and about ensuring absolute allegiance in a world teetering on the brink of profound systemic change. If you're an American with a second passport, or even just family abroad, this directly impacts your freedom, your future, and your ability to return to the U.S. The implications are staggering, affecting everything from your job prospects to your right to travel. This isn't a theoretical exercise. It's a developing reality that could see entire communities uprooted, assets frozen, and lives irrevocably altered. The numbers don't lie. The State Department estimates over 9 million U.S. citizens live abroad, many of whom hold dual nationality. This silent legal revolution could affect a significant portion of them, creating a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented scale right under our noses. First on our list, Israel. While traditionally a strong ally, recent shifts in U.S. foreign policy regarding regional conflicts have created unprecedented friction. There are whispers gaining volume of Israel considering revisions to its citizenship law. Historically, Israel has been generous with dual nationality, particularly for those making Aliyah. But here's the twist: proposed amendments, reportedly under discussion within the Knesset, could target dual citizens deemed to be acting against state security or undermining national interests. Broad terms that could be applied to a wide range of activities, including criticism of government policies or even certain academic research. For American dual nationals, this means potential travel restrictions, asset freezes, and even revocation of their Israeli citizenship, effective within months. Imagine if your business investments in Tel Aviv, your family's property, or your very right to reside in Israel suddenly vanished. The economic impact could be in the tens of millions for affected individuals, jeopardizing retirement plans and inheritances. This will shock you. Intelligence sources suggest this move is partly a preemptive measure to ensure absolute loyalty in a highly volatile region, making it harder for Washington to exert influence through its citizens. The clock is ticking for thousands of American Israelis. Next, our closest neighbor, Canada. For years, the U.S.-Canada border has been a model of cooperation and easy transit. But escalating disputes over critical resources, specifically water rights and rare earth minerals, combined with divergent approaches to global trade agreements, are creating deep rifts. You won't believe what happens next. Canadian parliamentary discussions have reportedly considered amendments to the Citizenship Act, focusing on cases where dual citizens are perceived to be exploiting Canadian resources for foreign gain or avoiding Canadian taxes via U.S. affiliations. While not explicitly targeting loyalty, these proposed changes would give the Canadian government unprecedented power to revoke citizenship from individuals deemed to be economically detrimental to the nation. This could impact American tech workers in Toronto, energy executives in Calgary, and even cross-border families. The timeline is surprisingly short, with potential legislation by late 2024. Economically, this could freeze billions in cross-border investments and disrupt supply chains. Imagine your high-paying job in Vancouver suddenly vanishing with no legal recourse. Sounds unreal? It's absolutely real. And it's a clear signal that even the most stable relationships are cracking under pressure. What happens next? No one is ready for. Third, Germany, a pillar of the European Union and a long-standing U.S. ally. The relationship is under strain due to increasing German economic ties with rivals of the U.S., particularly in energy and manufacturing, and a growing divergence on defense, spending, and strategy. Here's what they don't want you to know. Germany's new coalition government is quietly drafting amendments to its nationality law, ostensibly to streamline naturalization, but with a critical, hidden clause. This clause would grant the state power to revoke citizenship from dual nationals deemed to be engaging in serious acts detrimental to the Federal Republic, a term that could encompass cyber activities, intellectual property theft, or even lobbying efforts seen as undermining German industrial interests. This could affect American engineers working in Stuttgart, bankers in Frankfurt, and academics across the nation. The consequences for these individuals could manifest within 12 to 18 months, leading to loss of employment, inability to own property, and even deportation. The financial impact could be devastating, costing American families hundreds of thousands in lost assets and income. The numbers don't lie. Germany is subtly pushing for greater national economic self-reliance, and dual loyalties are increasingly seen as a threat to this ambition. The United Kingdom, our closest intelligence partner, is also at a geopolitical crossroads. Post-Brexit, the UK is desperately redefining its global role, and its relationship with the US is becoming increasingly transactional. This will shock you. Reports indicate the UK's Home Office is reviewing sections of the British Nationality Act, specifically concerning dual nationals deemed to have prejudiced the vital interests of the United Kingdom. This is a significant expansion from current terrorism-related revocations. The focus is reportedly on intelligence sharing and technology transfer, with concerns that dual US-UK citizens working in sensitive sectors could be vulnerable to external pressure or espionage. Imagine a scenario where your financial assets in London are frozen, your highly specialized job revoked, and you're suddenly considered an undesirable alien. The timeline for implementation could be as short as 6 to 9 months, impacting thousands of American expats in finance, defense, and technology. This isn't just about security, it's also about intellectual property control and the UK's desire to protect its burgeoning AI and defense industries from perceived foreign influence, even from its allies. The economic fallout for affected individuals could be catastrophic, easily totaling millions. Fifth on our alarming list, France. A founding member of NATO, France has increasingly asserted its strategic autonomy, often diverging from US foreign policy, particularly in Africa and the Middle East, and expressing deep concerns over US extraterritorial sanctions. But here's the twist. Confidential proposals within the French Ministry of Justice suggest revisions to the Code Civil, allowing for revocation of French citizenship for dual nationals who gravely violate the duties of citizenship or engage in activities that threaten public order or national defense. This broad language is deeply concerning. It could be applied to dual citizens working for American corporations that compete directly with French state-backed enterprises, or even those involved in lobbying efforts seen as detrimental to French strategic interests. For American expats in Paris, Nice, or Lyon, this means their long-held residency, their careers, and their social security benefits could be wiped out within a year. The economic implications are staggering, potentially costing affected families hundreds of thousands in lost capital and future earnings. Sounds unreal? It's absolutely real. France is drawing a clear line, prioritizing its sovereignty above all else, and dual nationality is increasingly being viewed as a potential weakness. Down under, Australia, another key Five Eyes intelligence partner, is facing immense pressure in the Indo-Pacific region, balancing its alliances with the US against its critical economic ties with China. You won't believe what happens next. Australia's Department of Home Affairs is reportedly considering strengthening its powers to strip citizenship from dual nationals, extending beyond terrorism offenses to include actions deemed incompatible with Australian values or detrimental to national security. This is a direct response to rising geopolitical tensions and fears of foreign interference, particularly from adversarial states. This could impact American academics, tech professionals, and even resource sector executives who hold dual Australian citizenship. Imagine being an American working in Sydney's financial district or a researcher in Melbourne, only to find your Australian passport is suddenly invalid, your property rights tenuous, and your future uncertain. The timeline for these changes is aggressive. Potentially within 9 months, the financial repercussions for those affected could easily reach 6 figures, impacting careers and family stability. Australia is solidifying its national identity and security posture in a volatile region, and dual loyalty is now under unprecedented scrutiny. The clock is ticking. 7th, Japan. While a crucial U.S. ally in Asia, Japan's approach to citizenship is historically unique, largely disallowing dual nationality. But here's the twist. For those who did manage to retain dual status, or whose cases fall into complex legal gray areas, a new threat emerges. With escalating regional tensions, particularly with China and North Korea, Japan is subtly tightening its legal framework. Proposed amendments to the nationality law, ostensibly to address aging demographics and increase foreign talent, contain clauses that could effectively force existing dual citizens to choose one allegiance. This isn't about revoking outright, but rather creating an impossible choice under duress with severe consequences for non-compliance. This could impact American Japanese individuals in highly sensitive fields like defense technology, cybersecurity, or even finance, where strategic information is paramount. The consequences could materialize over the next 18 months, leading to forced emigration, loss of specialized jobs, and significant financial strain. Imagine your career in Tokyo, built over decades, suddenly at a dead end because of an impossible choice. This will shock you. Japan is reinforcing its national resolve, and any ambiguity regarding loyalty is being systematically eliminated, impacting a small but highly influential demographic of dual nationals. 8th on our list, South Korea. Situated on one of the world's most volatile borders, South Korea lives under constant threat from its northern neighbor. The U.S. alliance is paramount, but the domestic political landscape is increasingly focused on internal security and economic self-sufficiency. Here's what they don't want you to know. There's an intensifying debate within the National Assembly regarding the strict enforcement of existing dual nationality laws for those over 20, and even considering retroactive application for certain strategic sectors. The concern is that dual allegiance could compromise national security, particularly if individuals are seen as having divided loyalties during a crisis. This could impact American Koreans working in advanced manufacturing, semiconductor industries, or even military contractors. The timeline for stricter enforcement or new amendments could be as short as 6 months. For those affected, it means potential loss of highly skilled jobs, restrictions on movement, and even legal challenges to property ownership. The economic toll could be substantial, jeopardizing high-tech careers and investments worth hundreds of thousands. The numbers don't lie. South Korea is battening down the hatches, and any perceived vulnerability, including dual citizenship, is being scrutinized with unprecedented intensity. The clock is ticking. 9th, the United Arab Emirates. A rising economic and geopolitical player in the Middle East, the UAE has traditionally been a magnet for foreign talent and capital. But as regional rivalries intensify and global powers reevaluate alliances, the UAE is prioritizing its own national security and economic interests. You won't believe what happens next. Confidential drafts of proposed amendments to the UAE nationality law indicate a push for stricter allegiance requirements. While the UAE has recently liberalized some residency rules, these new amendments could target dual nationals whose activities are perceived to undermine the economic stability or compromise the security of the Emirates. This could include American business owners, investors, or consultants whose operations align too closely with U.S. sanctions or strategic interests perceived to be at odds with the UAE. Imagine your thriving business in Dubai, your property, and your investments suddenly declared forfeit. The timeline for these changes is uncertain, but could be swift, impacting thousands of American expatriates and their families. The financial implications could easily run into the millions, as assets could be frozen or seized without clear recourse. It sounds unreal, but it's real. The UAE is consolidating its power, and any perceived divided loyalty, particularly among those holding significant economic sway, is seen as a risk. Finally, Russia, the most volatile entry on our list and perhaps the most alarming. The relationship between the US and Russia has plummeted to Cold War lows, characterized by direct conflict and aggressive geopolitical maneuvering. But here's the twist. Russia has always been wary of dual nationality, often viewing it with suspicion. Now, amid ongoing conflicts, there's a serious push within the Duma to toughen laws against dual citizens, particularly those with US nationality. This will shock you. Proposed legislation would allow for the arbitrary stripping of Russian citizenship for those deemed to be engaging in unpatriotic acts or collaborating with hostile foreign powers. This is incredibly broad and could encompass anything from digital communications to past business dealings. For American-Russian dual nationals, especially those who still have family or assets in Russia, this could lead to immediate detention, forced conscription, or even long-term imprisonment with no real legal defense. The timeline is now. This isn't a future threat. It's an immediate, active danger. The economic and personal consequences are immeasurable, as lives, fortunes, and even freedom hang in the balance. What happens next? No one is ready for. Russia is weaponizing citizenship, using it as a tool in its escalating conflict with the West. And American dual nationals are caught directly in the crosshairs. What you've just heard isn't a dystopian fantasy. It's a stark look at the emerging geopolitical reality. The cascade effect of these individual national policy shifts is profound. It paints a chilling picture of near-future America, where the concept of global mobility for its citizens is severely curtailed. Imagine an America where millions of its citizens, who believed they had a safety net of a second passport, are suddenly adrift, forced to choose between allegiance and their life savings, between family abroad and their right to return home. The economic ramifications are colossal. Billions in personal wealth, investments, and assets held by dual nationals could be frozen, seized, or simply vanish. This isn't just about the individuals affected, it's about a massive brain drain. As highly skilled professionals become unwilling to risk their dual status, choosing one country over another, often to America's detriment, tourism will decline, international trade will become riskier, and the very concept of a globalized American workforce will be irrevocably altered. The pessimistic scenario? A world where citizenship becomes a weapon, where nations ruthlessly protect their perceived self-interests, and where humanitarian crises of statelessness become the new norm. America could see its influence wane as its citizens become targets abroad, and its economic ties fray under the weight of this legal decoupling. However, there's a cautiously optimistic scenario if we act now. This crisis could force a global reevaluation of international law and the rights of dual citizens, potentially leading to new treaties or protective frameworks. But this requires immediate awareness and pressure. The choice is ours. Will we passively watch as these rights erode, or will we demand accountability and protection for millions of Americans? The implications of these global shifts are already being felt in subtle ways: increased scrutiny at borders, delays in financial transactions, and a growing sense of unease among dual nationals. This is not just a problem for those with two passports. It's a fundamental challenge to the global order and America's place within it. The silence from official channels is deafening, but it won't last forever. What happens next will define the future of American identity in the 21st century. Will you be ready? So what do you think? Is your citizenship truly secure in this rapidly changing world? How would a potential loss of dual nationality impact your family, your career, your future? Share your thoughts and concerns in the comments below. Your perspective is crucial in this unfolding crisis. This isn't just a video, it's a wake-up call, a demand for awareness in an increasingly uncertain world. If you found this information vital, if it shocked you, then it's your duty to share it with everyone you know. This is not something they want you to know. And the more eyes on this, the harder it is to ignore. Don't let this crucial information get lost in the noise. And to stay ahead of these unprecedented global shifts, to ensure you're always informed when the mainstream media stays silent, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. In our next video, we'll delve deeper into the specific legal loopholes and potential defense strategies for dual nationals caught in this geopolitical crossfire. You won't want to miss it.